going on, everybody? Gracias out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. It has been wonderfully um, productive. I feel like I got a lot done. I feel like slowly but surely I'm getting my sea legs back. I'm getting back in the groove of things, and I'm actually enjoying the process. I used to fight this. I didn't like the fact that I was making mistakes. I didn't like the fact that I maybe wasn't where I thought I needed to be. But the minute I started relaxing my own expectations, and just following my energy and doing the best that I can, the easier it got. I felt like I was able to understand a lot more. There were some days where I was super productive and other days where I knew that I needed to kind of catch my breath and sleep a little bit. So I've been following my own energy, and it's become a much easier process. There's less friction, there's less stress, and I feel good about what I'm doing. So in the meantime, I wanted to talk about a concept that I've always kind of had in the back of my head, but I've never really put into words before. I think I've mentioned it so many times before. A lot of times you have a lesson that you learn, right? And perhaps you listen, perhaps you learn it when you are maybe in your 20s, and it's a difficult lesson, to be sure, and you think you've learned it, you think you've conquered it, you think you're good to go, and then at some point you find yourself in a similar situation, like maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, and you're thinking, damn, I thought I learned this lesson, but it's revisiting, and it's a different layer that you have to peel back, and a different depth of meaning that you have to kind of conquer. So in that regard, I feel like life's journey is not really a straight line. We already know it's not a crooked line either, because we've seen all those memes where, you think the path to success is from here to there straight, as the crow flies or whatever, but they have this like big mess, tangled web of, pathways and wrong turns and backtracking and going back to get to where you need to be. But even then, I want to suggest that it's actually more of a spiral, as in we learn certain lessons, we try our best to kind of conquer them and understand them, and then apply what we've learned, and then later on down the line we find another lesson before us that's very similar to the first, but it's like a deeper layer of that. It's more, there's more to that. So the understanding you had back then is being deepened. It's being broadened to a sense. So let me give you a couple examples. When I first met one of my crushes back in high school, and I thought he was actually, interested in me, and I was so excited, and I wanted to go out and do everything that I could for them, because it was a new feeling that somebody actually was interested in me, that they wanted to, be around me and stuff. But it just so happened that it was convenient for him when we were not in school. So when we're after school, he would call, he would ask me questions, he would try to be very, very sweet. He was very, very endearing and quite affectionate. And I was taken with that whole process, because up until then, I think I was maybe like 16, 17 at the point, no one was actually interested in me. I was usually bullied for looking just gawky and scrawny and tall and just being the odd duck. So it was a new feeling to me. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. Until we started attending school together. And so what we did after school and who we were when we were at school were two different things, completely like night and day. He would make me feel like I was a leper in front of everybody else. He would act like he was allergic to me, and he would join in with his friends when they bullied me. But then when we got back from school, and if he would call me or message me or whatever, he would be very sweet again. And I was thrown for a loop. I thought that, wow, maybe it was something that, you had to keep up pretenses when you're in front of people, and perhaps, this was something for him to cope. Maybe he didn't want to get in trouble or anyone to talk about the fact that we were together or whatever. And it took me a while to realize he was using me. It took me a while to realize that he saw a weakness in me that he was trying to exploit. And by the time I figured it out, I was super hurt. I was broken in a way that I had never been before. And it was very reminiscent of my sexual abuse when I was younger. So that's actually what triggered me to remember all of those events. But the underlying moral of the story, I guess, was that I need to respect myself enough to say no when I realize that I'm being used, that it's not actually a love connection, that it's more of a convenience connection, and I was just being taken advantage of and taken for granted. So at that point, I thought, you know what? I hate everybody, and I'm going to go into like anger mode, because anger is my cover. Anger is my favorite emotion to help me get through things, because when I'm angry, I can actually block out everybody and kind of focus on my own thing. And it's not that it's anger, I'm going to go hurt everyone. It's more like anger I need my space. I'm going to protect myself from everyone and everything. Anything with breath in their lungs, I'm just going to, I'm going to stay the hell away from, because I don't know who to trust and I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to work on myself. So way back then, when I was about 16 or 17, I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to get through it. And I realized that I can tell when someone wants me for my body or for affection rather than actually likes who I am. Or so I thought. That was, like I said, when I was about 17. After that, I had lots of crushes, but the crushes were more for me. It was like something for me to look forward to get through the day. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. I get to see this guy. And it was just, something to keep me excited about the next day. Until I got to college and I, brand new place. I was uncomfortable with the way I looked. I had just gone through a pilgrimage in India. I went from having really long, beautiful hair, finally having kind of grown into my frame a little bit, to being completely bald and having to learn how to like myself all over again. So when I got to college, I had really, really short hair. I did not look the way I wanted to look. I was not in a position to really make any really great impressions. So I just concentrated on work. I was in a work study program and I was on scholarship. So I tried to figure out how I was going to get through school, and I kind of just kept my head down. I made friends with my roommate. I had a couple of, neighbors that I'd gotten friendly with, and so I went about my business until there was a young man who started pursuing me again. And I was thinking, wow, cool, he really likes me, because obviously I'm not gorgeous right now. I don't look my best, but perhaps he actually likes my company. And my anger kicked in again because it was a defense mechanism. And what I was trying to do was be friendly, but not too friendly. Don't get your hopes up, because this could be one of those like before. What ended up happening was he continued to pursue me, and we ended up seeing more and more of each other and hanging out, and I liked his company. He seemed to like mine, and we were able to do homework together. We were able to be seen in front of people together, and it was a different experience, and I was able to prove my nervous system wrong. No, this is not just like the other guy. Not every guy just wants sex or whatever. And I felt a little bit more comfortable, so I started to open up, and I felt pretty good about what I was doing. And in this instance, it was a spiral. I had come back to another situation where I had to deal with the opposite sex, and I had to deal with my own confidence and security. And what happened was, this time, the lesson was not that I had to respect myself as far as whether he was using me or not. It was more like I needed to still be my own person, even though I was in the relationship. And that took form when I wanted to try out for a sport, and I really wanted to run track. I've always wanted to run track all my life. I wanted to run track, and I don't know if I'm fast or not, but I kind of have this, let me try. He happened to run track, and I was suddenly very nervous and worried that I might not live up to his expectations, because he was really fast. He was one of those people who could compete and really win, because guess what? This fool has been running since he was in middle school. So he was a football player. He was a track athlete. I think he ran the 4x1 and the 4x4, and he did the 800 as well, if I remember correctly. So he was an accomplished runner because both sports he ran. I think he played baseball as well. So yeah, he ran. He's been running all his life. And whereas I was a dancer, I've never actually tried track before. So I thought, what, I would love to do this. This would be so cool. It'd be the first time. And I ran it by him. And he said, no, I don't think that's a good idea because you run funny. And I'm thinking, I run funny? What do you mean I run funny? Like, what does that mean? I thought I was fast. I've been the fastest kid in PE classes. And I remember, teaching PE in 11th to 12th grade. And I remember being faster than boys because I taught middle school and they were younger than me. So, I thought, hey, I was pretty good, I thought. Never mind. So I was immediately embarrassed and scared and ashamed. And I ran it by one of his friends who's also a mutual friend of mine. And I said, Brian, I really want to, run track. And he was like, you should go try out. And I was like, yeah, but Dre doesn't like it. And I don't think he's going to be very pleased about it. So I was like, I'm just going to quit. I'm not going to try. So I went out for lacrosse instead. And this was a lesson that I should have learned, to not let someone tell me whether my dreams were dumb or not, to just try them out for myself so I wouldn't have any regrets. So to this day, I kind of regret never having tried out for track. But I walked onto the lacrosse team. Apparently I was fast enough, and I had never seen the game played before in my life, but they needed people, and apparently I had a couple of skills that were kind of worthy, and so I went to play lacrosse instead. And I had a really great time. So this was the second layer of, being myself in a relationship and knowing when to push back and when not to push back. So suddenly this was not about sex. This was not about, being my own person. Suddenly it was becoming about, how do I draw my boundaries? How do I become an individual within a relationship where you're supposed to be two becomes one or whatever? Well, guess what? Lessons don't end there, do they? They never end there. So when I broke up with my ex-fiance, because that relationship was 8 7 8 years long, we had moved in together, like all kinds of stuff, and it was always a constant reminder of, okay, well, how do you draw your line? How do you draw your boundary? How do you say enough is enough? And I never did, because I didn't want to upset him and I didn't want to lose him either. So fast forward to when I met my now ex-husband, and I was doing my best to leave everybody alone. I was back in anger mode. I was trying to, just block everything out and just focus on my work, because I don't want to be entangled in a relationship right now. I don't have time for that. I'm still licking my wounds from the last one. I'm not in the mood. I'm not here for all that. I'm just here to work. So this is when I started picking up a lot of skills, a lot more responsibility at work, and I slowly accumulated 5 different departments that I was running. So I felt pretty good about myself. I ended up in a situation where I was working with the sales department as well as running the marketing department under my director. And I thought I was doing pretty good. I was involved with the special events, with the dinner parties, with, all of the front office, front desk management stuff. I was taking care of the community marketing agents. I was making sure that payroll was done. I was budgeting. I was doing good. I thought I was doing good. I'd worked myself into a position where I was doing good. And then one of the young men that was on the sales team that I had kind of become friends with started flirting with me. And he was known as a ladies' man. And I was thinking, what the hell? He doesn't need me. I mean, I am nobody here. I'm not fancy by any means. All the sales girls are like really, really well dressed and got hair and makeup and nails and eyelashes and everything done all the time. Like, what do you want with me? So I was just trying to keep my head down and focus on my work. And here he comes over and over again pursuing me. And I was like, okay, fine. It's hard not to end up spending time with people. And he would ask me out and we would go have fun and everything. And it wasn't one of those, I can't let anyone know you're with me, I have to hide you. It wasn't like that either. And he seemed to like the fact that I was independent. He was very proud of the fact that I was well educated, that I was well traveled, that I could speak a couple of different languages. And he used to brag about it. And it made me feel good, because here he was bragging about how good I was at what I did. And so eventually, as things do, they progressed, and I ended up dating him and being in, at events with the rest of our sales staff and marketing, people. We were work events and social events, and everything kind of melded together. And eventually we moved in. And when we moved in, it was reminiscent of my ex-fiance from college, because we had moved in together as well. And I fell into a routine of taking care of everything at home and making sure the kids were okay and everything. But there were several instances where I didn't have a chance to say what I needed to say or draw a boundary. I kind of just went with the flow and did what he needed, because I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And it just so happened at the time when we moved in, I had just been kicked out of one apartment and moved in with a group of friends, and the friends' apartment had just caught fire, and I had been displaced once again. The company was kind enough to put me up in a hotel for a couple of days, because I had nowhere to go. And eventually he was getting ready to move out of his father's house anyway, so we found a place together. Very, very exciting stuff. Very, very, very romantic to me, because I thought, oh my gosh, we're moving in together and this is going to feel like, married couple, and we're headed that way anyway, because I got an instant family. He has 2 kids. I'm raising them. So I felt good about it. But like I said, that spiral came back around again for this relationship lesson that I still had yet to learn. How to live with a male type creature, to draw boundaries so I had my own space, and to make sure that I didn't give up everything that was me to be there for them. So what I thought I had learned in my last relationship, I still had not. Because when the situation arose where I could say, no, I don't like doing this, or no, I would rather not do that, can you help me with this instead? Where I could have given him space to be himself in the relationship too, and to kind of take care of me, I did not. I took over, I managed everything, I'll handle it. And it became very one-sided, because he didn't have to do anything. There was no responsibility left for him to really take besides pay the rent. And I don't know if that was part of our downfall or not. Probably was. But it became where I started to resent the fact that I was doing everything and he was not able to help me. Because even when I did ask him, he would be like, oh no, you got this. Don't worry about it. I can't. So he had gotten used to this idea where he could go off and do whatever he wanted. And I had gotten him used to the idea that nothing had to be worried about at home, because I got this. She's going to take care of the kids. She's going to make sure the kids are picked up, that they're fed, that the homework is done. He didn't have to worry about nothing else. And here I was thinking, so old school, because it came from my mom. I was thinking, if I can handle everything at home, There will be no reason for you to step out of the relationship to get anything because I'm handling it. I'm there. So that was the next level of that, lesson. And I realized eventually that because I didn't leave room for him to help me, because I was consistently helping to handle everything all the time, that I had kind of like dug my own grave. Because when I did ask, it was such a labor to help me out, to lend me money, to do any of those things. But we were married. We'd been married for a couple of years and we were still struggling. So the moral of this podcast is the line is definitely not straight, but it's also not like a tangled knot of hair either. It's more like a spiral. It's like you learn these lessons in specific places. And for me, the major lesson is to draw boundaries, to say no to people and mean it, to make them want to compromise instead of me giving in and giving up whatever it is that I wanted to accommodate the other person. Now, I know it is very selfless to accommodate people, and I've been nicknamed the martyr for more than one of these occasions, but it doesn't serve you well at all. For you to give up what you want all the time makes you bitter with the people around you because you're not realizing that you're the one giving it up. You have a choice, you could say no, but because you feel obligated to say yes, because they're expecting you to say yes, and you've never said no before perhaps, it feels like a really major point of contention. You feel very, very worried that they're going to judge you, that they're going to shame you, that they're not going to like you no more, they won't be your friend no more. Like all those things pop into your head. And where for most of us, we're trying to go through the path of least resistance. We're not trying to fight anybody. We're not trying to start any drama. We just want to get through the day. That's still survival mode and you're still not learning your lesson. So I would love for you to look at the relationships where you feel like you give too much. And the reason you give too much is not because they ask you to give too much, because I've had those situations where I give and I'm like, yeah, but I did this. And like, oh, what are you trying to do? Rub it in my face? It's not like I asked you to do that anyway. No, that was love. I was trying to show you love. But when they don't ask for it and you give, sometimes they don't appreciate it. So those relationships where you feel like you give too much, look at the situation and really think, are they asking you to give that much, or are you offering because you love them, because you want them to be happy, you want them to be safe and taken care of? But also, how much of what you want are you giving up in order to show them that you love them? Maybe it's someone that's, in dire straits at the moment. They're really having a tough time in life, and you don't want them to feel like, they have nowhere to go. You don't want them to feel like, oh my gosh, this is another place where you're going to hear no all the time. Because maybe that's all they've complained about. All I ever hear is no one ever wants to help me. And you're like, no, I'm not like that. I do want to help you. Let me see what I can do. But in giving them everything so easily, and this is the dumb part of this, giving them everything so easily, especially in this day and age, this generation thinks, oh, it's easy, then it's not real. Oh, it's easy, I can't trust it. They want the friction, they want the conflict, but I don't want any conflict. So what do? All I'm saying is take a look at your relationships. It should be fairly even. They want to give to you and you want to give to them. Even your friendships, the ones that always need from you. The ones that are constantly in trouble, constantly bringing drama, and you constantly have to be the one that bails them out. When you go out with your friends, are you the mother in the group where you have to make sure everyone gets home safe? Like, what does that look like? So I'm not saying get rid of them, but I'm saying try and lay a boundary and see what happens. Because that's how you test a friendship. And I'm not saying test it to see if they're good friends or not. I'm saying you have needs too. You know that you can fulfill their needs. You know that you can be there for them. But can they be there for you? And don't wait until you're in dire straits and you have nowhere else to turn and then ask them to find out that they don't want to be there for you. I'm saying ask a little bit along the way. Ask if you can reschedule a meeting, or if you can arrive late to something. Ask if it's okay if, I know I wanted to go out and hang out with you guys, but I don't feel that great. I'm just going to stay home. Is that okay? Try and say no in little ways and see how that goes over. If they're all right with it, well, okay, cool. That means you're feeling a little bit more safe about that space where you could possibly ask for help if you wanted. Friendships are not just there for the good times. Friendships are meant to be there for the bad times. Actually, that's what they need to be there for. The bad times, the difficult times, the tough times when you don't know who you are and you don't know who to ask, but your group, your crew knows exactly who you are and will defend you and remind you, you know what, you're a bad bitch. Don't settle for nothing. Don't sit around and mope. Come on, let's go get this sorted out. That's what you need. But if you don't realize the spiral of lessons that keep coming back to you and you don't take up the lesson itself and learn from that experience, you're going to find yourself in the same situation, the same difficult conversations, the same places where you have to leave because you can't get what you want, because either you're not comfortable enough asking or they're not used to you needing, whatever the case may be. Don't find yourself in that same situation over and over again like I did. Don't be like me, okay? Learn, test along the way. Make sure your friends know you're not superhuman, you're not immortal, you're human, and you have your own worries and concerns. Let your people into your circle. Let them into your personal space and let them know a little bit about what you're going through so they know that, hey, yeah, she is human. She got some things going on. All right? I hope this helped you guys. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. But in the meantime, take care of you. Draw those boundaries. Do it for yourself because you deserve to be taken care of too. And people don't know that you need to be taken care of until you tell them, hey, I need some help here. I need some love here. I need a hug. All right? I love you guys. I'll catch you later. Bye.